Relive the debate, the fight for a city, tonight at 6.
On World News Tonight this Sunday, a mystery on Mars. A critical test today to establish contact with the polar lander. Has it been lost in space? The Castro ultimatum: return a 5-year-old boy to his father in Cuba and soon, or else. And the difference one picture makes to the history of the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor.
From ABC, this is World News Tonight, Sunday.
Good evening, I'm Aaron Brown. For 3 difficult and anxious days, NASA has pushed every button, pulled every switch, tried everything it can to make contact with the polar lander. Scientists hope has landed safely in the South Pole of Mars. Today, a critical test, a deafening silence, and tonight, diminishing hopes. Here's ABC's Ned Potter.
Once again, engineers gathered to listen for a signal from the lander, and once again, the lander was as silent as most of the engineers.
Have you heard any news on if we're getting any data?
No, I have not heard any news.
NASA had hoped that if the lander could not use its main antenna, perhaps today it would relay signals through a second ship, Mars Global Surveyor, which is orbiting Mars. They'll keep listening, but they concede now the odds are against them.
Clearly, the team is getting more frustrated, certainly, and more tense about all of this.
To put this setback in context, go back to a ship called Mars Observer, which failed just before reaching Martian orbit in 1993. $1 billion and a decade of work gone to waste.
We have liftoff of the Delta II.
To recover, NASA decided its projects after that would be faster, cheaper, better. Smaller ships, less bureaucracy, more flights. Everyone's favorite success was Mars Pathfinder with its little rover in 1997.
The hope is that we're going to be launching enough of these small spacecraft in the future that if 1 or 2 fail, it isn't a big loss.
But some engineers think NASA may have overdone it. It lost another Mars ship just 2 months ago, that infamous case confusing feet and meters, and a review board then said controllers were overburdened, handling 2 or 3 missions at once.
There's been major pressure to keep costs down, and perhaps the pressure has pushed them too far down, and we need to back off a little bit.
For now, whatever went wrong with Mars polar lander is pure speculation. Perhaps it burned up or crashed, or perhaps it is sitting on the Martian surface with some problem its makers on Earth cannot know. Ned Potter, ABC News, New York.
A more earthly problem here, perhaps though no easier to solve. Fidel Castro, using the strongest language to date, has demanded the United States return a 5-year-old boy to his father in Cuba within 72 hours or face the consequences. He said this as Cuban troops surrounded the U.S. mission in Havana. Here's ABC's Andrea McCarran.
A visibly angry President Fidel Castro accused the United States government of kidnapping 5-year-old Elian Gonzalez and demanded his return within 72 hours. Castro warned that if the U.S. does not comply, there will be millions of anti-American protesters in the streets of Cuba. U.S. officials say they will not intervene in what has become an international custody battle. Today, there was heightened security at the American Interest section in Havana. In Elian's hometown, the little boy's relatives and friends called for his return. Elian's father and all 4 grandparents want him back in Cuba. Elian's father said today, "My son is being used like a toy, but what he really needs is the love of his family." On Monday, the U.S. government released Elian to the custody of relatives in Miami. In a year, he can apply for permanent residency. So now it is down to a custody battle. It will be fought in a Florida court once Elian's father files for custody. Tomorrow, Elian will celebrate his 6th birthday. 6 years old, but already a symbol of the anti-Castro sentiment in Miami's Cuban-American community.
I think the mother's actions spoke very eloquently and poignantly. With her last breath, she was praying to God that this little boy would start a new life in the land of freedom and democracy here in the United States.
All of this comes 1 week before U.S.-Cuban migration talks in Havana. Cuba wants the U.S. to stop giving any Cuban who reaches American soil the right to stay. But tonight, administration officials say they have no plans to change U.S. policy. Andrea McCarran, ABC News, Washington.
In American presidential politics, Republican hopeful John McCain said today that he hopes the release of his medical records will counter rumors about his fitness to serve. Rumors his staff says were part of a whispering campaign started by his rivals.
I don't know if there's any whispering campaign. It doesn't matter to me. I think the thing is that we need to move forward, and I hope that this will be, at least have that beneficial effect.
These presidential campaigns used to be more of a marathon than a sprint, but not this time around. The campaign season is so short and the stakes are so high that not even the holiday season, usually time off, is providing a break. ABC's John Yang is in Washington tonight.
While Republican candidate John McCain spent the weekend promoting his fitness to be president, Democrat Al Gore was trumpeting New Hampshire Governor Jeanne Shaheen's endorsement of his candidacy. Rival Democrat Bill Bradley continued to flood New Hampshire with television ads. And Republican George W. Bush was in Texas, preparing for another Republican debate tomorrow night. Polls of likely voters show these men running neck and neck, the two parties' New Hampshire primaries up for grabs.
They're real fights. I mean, they're very, very close. I mean, within the margin of error in both primaries. And that has really raised the stakes and increased the focus on the race.
So they are running earlier and harder than ever before. Politically, there has never been a busier December. Republicans and Democrats each still have two more debates this month.
Things that would be happening starting in January is now happening in December and in November.
All of this is driven by a political calendar that begins earlier than ever before. January 24th, the Iowa caucuses. February 1st, the New Hampshire primary. By mid-March, the race for both parties' nominations will probably be over. That schedule is so daunting that many candidates have already dropped out before a single vote has been cast.
In most presidential elections, you need the primaries to winnow down the field. They're winnowed down now. The campaign has started. You know, the only missing element are the voters, and that comes next year.
And by the time the voters do get involved in this earlier-than-ever campaign, some of the most crucial decisions, like who's in and who's out, will already have been made. John Yang, ABC News, the White House.
In Massachusetts, a day of mourning today as the 6 firefighters who died in a warehouse fire in Worcester were remembered in services. The search for their bodies goes on. Only one body has been pulled out and identified. Finding the rest may take some time. Investigators say the 80-year-old warehouse is a dark maze, making finding the bodies both slow and dangerous. Still to come on World News Tonight this Sunday, what really happened to one of the world's richest men? How the riots in Seattle may have sparked more than just protest. And in Salt Lake City, a lawsuit that asks, who owns Main Street?
In the last 13 years, Nicorette helped over 1 million people help themselves stop smoking. And that was the reason that convinced me to use Nicorette. All these people knew it was safe and effective. Nicorette delivers a low level of nicotine fast to help control cravings without the tars and toxins found in cigarettes. And Nicorette was proven safe and effective in more clinical trials than any other product. Just the idea that Nicorette had helped all those people made me feel that Nicorette was the right choice for me in the end. Which it was.
Nicorette helps you fight your cravings, your habit, your way. You can do it. Nicorette can help.
This is the face of erectile dysfunction. So is this. And this. Fact is, 1 in 3 men have some form of ED, a medical condition also called impotence that affects men of every age, race, and background. What else do all these men have in common? They all faced up to their problem and got help. If you're experiencing ED, there's no need to hide your face. Just talk to your doctor. It's the best way to get educated about ED and how to treat it.
Nobody does it like you. He lives on the carpet. You want it to be clean. Hoover Wind Tunnel reaches deep down to pick up more dirt than any other clean air upright or canister. Hoover. Deep down, you want Hoover.
My business runs on long hours and the leave. I can't settle for those pain relievers that quit too soon. Just 2 Aleve are strong enough to work all day. I used to need 8 Tylenol to do that. There's a tool for every job. For tough pain, it's Aleve.
In Turkey, authorities say they have detained at least 5 suspects after uncovering a plot to attack an embassy in the Turkish capital. The suspects were taken into custody at a bus station in Istanbul. Turkish authorities say the men are believed to have ties to the terrorist Osama bin Laden. Other buses were searched for suspects as well. Tonight, the mystery deepens surrounding the death of billionaire banker Edmond Safra. It is known that he suffocated in a fire in his Monaco apartment early Friday morning, but that is one of the few things investigators seem certain of tonight. ABC's Mike Lee is in Monte Carlo.
This weekend, investigators disclosed that Edmond Safra, who suffocated to death when fire and smoke engulfed his penthouse apartment, could have saved himself. But he refused to leave his locked bathroom when firemen arrived and began banging on walls, apparently thinking that they were intruders. He even ignored pleas from his wife, who called him on the cell phone to say the coast was clear. By first accounts, 2 masked men had broken in, wounded Safra's male nurse with a knife, then set the fire. But this weekend, investigators say they found no evidence of forced entry, no sign that anyone got beyond the outer room where the fire started, and no evidence of guns. Safra's bodyguard was not on duty and so far is not a suspect. So the only evidence of intruders comes from the male nurse who says he saw them. He's being treated at the hospital and questioned by police because he's a very special witness, says prosecutor Daniel Serde. Reporters asked if the nurse could become a suspect. If that's necessary, of course. There's also been widespread speculation that Safra was murdered by the Russian mafia because he had helped to expose money laundering crimes by Russians. Monaco is a tax haven, the adopted home for some very rich people who can deposit their money here to avoid paying taxes in their native countries. Thus, the old expression, this can be a sunny place for shady people. And Monaco has often been the backdrop for films about such intrigue.
John Roby the cat.
Cary Grant prowled the rooftops as a cat burglar in To Catch a Thief. Now, Monte Carlo suddenly has its own real-life rooftop drama unfolding. The mysterious death of one of the world's richest men. Edmond Safra will be buried in Geneva tomorrow as investigators here try to unravel what happened. Mike Lee, ABC News, Monte Carlo.
Still ahead tonight, a new generation of independent media.
Now the first and only mid-size car with the precision control system. It gives you better control over the unexpected. Intrigue by Oldsmobile. Start something.
Yoo-hoo! Ready?
Ready for a better way to get my fiber.
Use your concentration.
New Philips fiber caps don't contain sweeteners like most powders. They're concentrated, so they're just as effective as Metamucil. New Philips fiber caps, effective fiber therapy without the powder.
Oh, Mom, it's great. My first apartment. You should see it. It's huge.
When you've got things to talk about, it's a good idea to dial 10-10-321 first.
And I had a great view of the river.
With 10-10-321, you get 50% off calls over 10 minutes. That's just 8 cents a minute, day or night, and no monthly fees. And at 50% off, you can share every last detail.
And I even have a garden.
Talk as long as you want with 10-10-321.
It's time. Time for your heartburn to kick in because your heartburn relief gave out. It happens 2 or more days a week, even though you've treated it and changed your diet. That frequent, persistent heartburn may be due to acid reflux disease, potentially serious.
It's Prilosec time. Time to see your doctor about prescription Prilosec. Your results may vary, but for many people, Prilosec provides 24 hours of complete heartburn relief with 1 daily dose. Ask your doctor for more information about Prilosec and if it's right for you. The most common side effects are headache, diarrhea, and abdominal pain. 24 hours of complete heartburn relief is possible. It's Prilosec time.
In Seattle, after a week of protests, tear gas, and police blockades, it's back to normal, which would be latte salmon and software. Protesters remain outside the King County Jail, where about 500 other demonstrators wait inside to be released. Most of the members of the World Trade Organization, whose meetings sparked the protests, have already left town. They left without a deal, which is not to say that nothing important happened in Seattle last week. It may turn out to be the defining moment for what, for lack of a better term, we'll call new media. Here's ABC's Brian Rooney.
When the fracas erupted in Seattle streets, they were in the crowd with their video cameras.
Face me if I do not go, even though I'm a member of the alternative press.
They pressed in close with their cameras as the police tried to move demonstrators. And they were there when the mayor faced the press.
I'd like to know why the sheriff's department had officers out in the field without name tags or numbers or badges.
The meeting of the World Trade Organization was a turning point for the so-called independent media. Small partisan news organizations and individual reporters with political opinions they could never express in the mainstream media. Using relatively cheap technology, video cameras and streaming video on a handful of websites, they got out a worldwide message about the working poor, endangered species, and the power of the World Trade Organization.
Within 15 minutes, we were getting responses from Amsterdam, Austria, and Korea.
The independent media ran their own media center in a Seattle storefront with an assignment board and a dispatch desk. The most prominent website, called Indie Media, carried written reports and still photos, as well as the video and audio reports. Anyone who had something to say could file a report.
It's definitely building a model for what ideally would be a worldwide alternative media network.
The organizers say the Indie Media website was visited hundreds of thousands of times. What influence that had is impossible to say. But for the first time, the ideas and the technology came together at a significant event, and it worked. So, oddly enough, the very people who were in Seattle to fight what they believe are the ill effects of global trade.
There. Here's ABC's Carla Wall.
The heart of Salt Lake City clearly belongs to the Mormon Church, from the spires and shrines of Temple Square with all its many traditions to the church-owned department store. But when the city sold the Mormons this block of Main Street, some charged Salt Lake had sold its soul.
What it's effectively done is sell the public's First Amendment rights in this very important piece of property, and at the same time give the LDS Church basically a preferred platform to express its own positions and viewpoints.
Barricades now close off the block that historians say had traditionally been used as a site for public protest. The church bought the land for $8 million to consolidate its world headquarters. They're building an underground garage and above ground a plaza with gardens and a reflecting pool. The public will be allowed into the park as long as they play by Mormon rules, which means no smoking, no panhandling, no loud music, and no demonstrations.
We would hope that people would feel free to come here and exercise the same kind of personal discipline that we expect of all of our visitors when they come to Temple Square.
A number of groups, including the ACLU, are now suing the city to get the restrictions on public behavior lifted. They argue it had no right to sell an area that had been used as a public forum. But the city's attorney defends the sale.
This is not removing the opportunity of people to express their views or to protest. There's about 600 miles of sidewalks and streets in the city to do that.
Local historian John McCormick says the battle reflects a larger division between the Mormon majority and an increasingly diverse population.
The real question facing Salt Lake is, who does the city belong to? Okay, and I think increasingly more and more voices are saying it belongs to us.
The city is expected to respond to the lawsuit this week. Carla Bowl, ABC News, Salt Lake City, Utah.
Rose Bird, a champion of liberal causes and the first woman to serve on California's Supreme Court, has died in 1986. As Chief Justice of the court, she and two other judges were voted out of office in California, first there. Their opposition to the death penalty, the major issue. Rose Bird was 63 when she died yesterday, a victim of breast cancer. Still to come tonight, tracking potential criminals from the sky.
In this life, there's just no stopping. No break for a hacking cough. No rest for a raw, sore throat, aches, fever. But when you're desperate for relief, there is Theraflu. Fast, powerful, hot liquid therapy. With the first sip of that soothing hot liquid, you feel relief is on the way. Soon your throat is soothed, your cough calmed. Maximum strength Theraflu. Now in new honey lemon chest congestion and cough. Instant comfort, powerful relief.
Honey, I'm going to Staples to pick up a few gifts. Be back soon.
Attention shoppers, looking for the perfect gift? Well, check out aisle 3 for great prices on Sharp mobile organizers. And save on Panasonic phones. No, not you! You! Yes! or any husband would love one of those nice global chairs. I need a leather one. Get a leather chair.
For great gift ideas and over 7,000 items at guaranteed low prices at Staples. Yeah, we've got that.
Why do I have Aflac insurance on top of my regular health insurance? Because he has his mother's eyes. Because I still have to teach him to whistle. And because Aflac helps cover what other insurance doesn't. If I'm injured, Aflac even provides cash to help pay bills. So why do I have Aflac? Did I mention he has his mother's eyes? Aflac supplemental insurance. Without it, no insurance is complete.
This is the face of erectile dysfunction. So is this. And this. Fact is, 1 in 3 men have some form of ED, a medical condition also called impotence that affects men of every age, race, and background. What else do all these men have in common? They all faced up to their problem and got help. If you're experiencing ED, there's no need to hide your face. Just talk to your doctor. It's the best way to get educated about ED and how to treat it.
It's often a tricky business for law enforcement authorities to track and collect evidence on criminal suspects. Now police officers around the country are getting some high-tech help from the skies. Here's ABC's Steve Osunsami.
Spokane, Washington. 9-year-old Valerie Jackson is missing.
It just appears that we have a 9-year-old who's disappeared.
After a week of traditional police work in early October, detectives obtain a search warrant to use GPS satellites to track her father's activities. They believe he may be responsible. They secretly attach a transmitter to his truck. It made all the difference.
We would have lost him. I think the bigger threat was that he would have seen us and identified the fact that the police were following him and would have stopped what he was doing.
Using a system of satellites that circle the Earth, detectives use personal computers and the internet to trace his every move. In the end, he leads them to the girl's grave and is arrested for murder.
It's a great tool.
A tool now used all across the country. Last month in Iowa, investigators used GPS to catch the burglars who stole these goods from homes in 14 counties.
This is the actual target vehicle here.
Kelly Fromm, a former Army intelligence soldier, started selling the units 3 years ago. This year, sales to law enforcement are up 30%.
I forecast this year alone about 250 to 300 units just to law enforcement community alone.
The transmitters for these systems are easy to hide. There's one of these hidden underneath this car with enough battery life to last 14 days. They're now getting smaller and lasting longer. The price for the satellite system is getting lower, as low as $800, affordable for the more than 135 police departments who purchased a GPS system this year. Steve Osunsami, ABC News, Daytona Beach.
And still ahead tonight, new revelations about that day that will live in infamy.
Hey. This is for those ready to hit the road.
Hit the road. This is for a tough world.
This is for those looking for a solid experience.
This is excitement. Well built.
This is for right now. Right now.
Hit the road for Pontiac driving excitement and lease a Grand Am SE for as low as $209 a month for 36 months. Call for important lease details. This is for me.
For me. For me.
Hit the road for Pontiac driving excitement. This is for me.
The hot flashes got pretty bad. Night sweats were ruining my sleep. Vaginal dryness made intimacy uncomfortable. And I was worried that estrogen loss at menopause could lead to osteoporosis, a long-term health problem. Menopause is complicated. Talking to my doctor helped. For me, she prescribed Prempro. It's relieving my uncomfortable symptoms, and along with calcium and exercise, helping prevent osteoporosis.
Prempro is only for women who have not had a hysterectomy. Prempro is not for every woman. You should not take Prempro if you've had any breast or uterine cancer, abnormal vaginal bleeding, abnormal blood clotting, liver or heart disease, stroke, or if you think or know you are pregnant. Tell your doctor about your personal and family medical history. Side effects include blood clots, nausea, vomiting, abdominal pain, breast tenderness, irregular bleeding, and headache. For more information, talk to your doctor about Prempro or call.
I'm glad my doctor prescribed Prempro. Now I'm feeling great. For me, it's Prempro.
At the movies this weekend, another big weekend for Toy Story 2. once again on top of the weekend box office, $28 million. The World Is Not Enough held on to second place, followed by End of Days. And finally tonight, Pearl Harbor, the 58th anniversary of the attack coming up. Most of you have read about the attack that Sunday morning, or have seen the movies, or studied it in school. A few of you were there. Tonight, compelling new evidence that one major assumption about the attack has been wrong. Here's ABC's John McWethy.
December 7th, 1941.
Until now, historians believed it was entirely an attack by air. But a second look at this 58-year-old photograph snapped by a Japanese pilot just after the attack began has changed all that, rewriting a small part of Pearl Harbor's painful history.
Everyone looks at it as being an aerial attack. And there's always more than meets the eye in any kind of photograph.
John Rodgard and a team of photo interpreters have used space-age technology to unlock secrets in the old photograph, beginning with a mysterious disturbance in the water 400 yards from where American warships were at anchor.
When we went into the photograph, when we digitally reproduced it, we can see that we have a distinctive horizontal shape.
The shape of a small submarine.
And a very highly distinctive a vertical square.
The shape of a periscope. Historians have long known that the Japanese launched 5 two-man midget submarines the night before the attack. 4 of those boats were accounted for, beached or sunk without ever doing damage to an American ship.
No one knew whatever happened to the 5th one.
But the more Rodgard's team examined the picture, the more evidence they found. These 3 plumes of water, they theorized, were caused by the submarine's spinning propeller, not by torpedoes dropped from the air. And then there was the clincher. 2 torpedo tracks traced directly back to where the submarine was. At the instant the photograph was taken, one of those torpedoes is exploding against the side of the battleship West Virginia. A second is heading toward the Oklahoma. Both ships were sunk by multiple torpedo strikes, but it now appears that 2 of those torpedoes came from a midget submarine that had sneaked into Pearl Harbor, then vanished without a trace. For half a century, its story untold. John McWethy, ABC News, The Pentagon.
And that's our report for tonight. If you'd like to reach us, you can email us at weekend@abc.com. Tomorrow on Good Morning America, Step Family Holiday Survival Tips. Tens of millions of Americans are part of step families. Tomorrow, parents, kids, experts help you get through the holiday season. That's GMA tomorrow. I'm Aaron Brown in New York. From all of us at ABC News, have a great night.
Monday, our kids are failing at an astounding rate. Are the new standardized tests too tough? Watch ABC's World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Tonight, Rosie O'Donnell and Oprah Winfrey come together to bring you ABC's warmest night of television. First, Rosie O'Donnell sings holiday duets with today's hottest stars.